Okay, and I'm starting the timer. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ADHD reWired weekly recap, live and uncensored. I am Coach Brian Entler with ADHD reWired Coaching and Accountability Groups. I'm here with Kristin Marts, another coach with ADHD reWired. Hey, Kristin.
Hey, Brian, the timer's not running, or at least I don't see it running.
Okay, well,
We're off to a bang. Hey, we
I
use
don't
our
know why.
timer out there for those of you that don't know because we have ADHD and we are coaches with the ADHD reWired Coaching and Accountability Groups program. And we have brought in Kathleen Wilsbach. She was an alum. She actually went through my section and to chat with us today about our week 10 and what all came to pass.
Hello, Catherine. Kathleen, pardon me. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Kristen. I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, you were originally in season 31, and you were one of Kristin's coachees.
That is right.
Okay.
31.4.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was originally season 22. I started off with the program as a coaching member, and so did Kristin. And what was your original season, Kristin?
24.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
and just so
spring of
everyone at the home knows,
2021.
we are here to recap week 10 of the 35th season. So it's been quite a while since we were coaching members, and we're actually currently doing registration for season 36. So I've got that information up on the slide, but let's talk about week 10. Kristin, what are your thoughts on week 10?
So in week 10, we do some what we call in social work termination exercises, which includes having toasts for the A teams. They put together we have a template they follow and put together a formal toast to each other. And it just allows them to kind of, swim in all the love that they have for each other. And then we write a new letter to our ADHD because thinking about the relationship with our ADHD is one of our first things we target and talk about that throughout the program. And so we write a new letter to our ADHD and we talk about those. And then we have our final kind of group commencement exercise. We wrap up how masterminds went for everyone, and we have a few prompts that allow people to share maybe what a takeaway was, or a most memorable moment, or what they were surprised about learning. It's a big share fest and a love fest on this week.
Oh,
And yeah, we had a lot of that. I will say for the toast, my members show up. Uh, One group went to their room so they could record it. And the group that stayed with me said, we can't start. We can't start. We had one of our members whose baby got sick and she couldn't be there. And they're like, we can't do this without her. So they rescheduled theirs, which I thought was
oh,
lovely. That's how bonded the teams get.
Oh yeah, it's really great. And one thing to point out, we do the Dear ADHD letter, and I'm pointing out that's our second one. We revisit that a couple times throughout the session, and people are always struck by the difference that it comes sometimes with the second letter some number of weeks later than the first one, and they observe their difference in their awareness and perceptions. Now, I noticed that in my original season 22, that my second letter was a lot different from my first one, but now that I have admin 4 times and I've been coaching for about a year. I have a whole I have a whole database I have a whole bunch of versions of these letters that I save in my Google Docs, and I always go back over them every time. And it's really remarkable how it takes time, how our perception can shift over time. And I'm like, I remember the person I was when I read those early letters, but I don't feel like I am that person anymore. And I feel like and it's really only been, maybe a couple years, but like over that amount of time frame, like the shift in perception and awareness can be really remarkable. Uh, Kathleen, do you remember what it was like writing your second Dear ADHD letter or subsequent
Yeah,
letters? We do it in alumni planning too.
Right.
right. Well, I was diagnosed pretty late. So I graduated from ARC a year ago. And at that time, I was 59. My graduation and my birthday coincided.
Oh,
And so I just turned 60, but I've only been diagnosed for a couple of years. Um, so my first letter had a lot of, grief in it about
Mm.
you know, not having known why things were the way they were for so long in my life. And then my second letter was about kind of how my relationship had improved by getting to know my ADHD so much better through the program and provided myself with a lot more forgiveness instead of like, oh, why did you do that? I was like, now I know why I did that. You know, or why is this so hard? Well, now I know why some things are so hard, and I, you know some strategies I can use to make it not so hard, to make it somewhat, easier. I won't say easy, but I will say easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you hit right on one of the key concepts that I get every time when we go through this, the DRD exercise, like that, at least the first one is that sense of mourning, that sense of loss that many of us had, but like, oh, if only I had known, if only things had been different. And I point that out. I don't let it be the elephant in the room. I actually, after we do that exercise, I go through the whole idea of like the 7 stages of grief. And then I point out that like, it's not linear, you'll ping pong back and forth, and to allow space for that. Because even though as a coach, I frame everything in the positive, and I advocate for the idea of thought of like the school of positive psychology, framing things positive, but like that framing the positive without acknowledging that negative, that's just toxic positivity. That's a band-aid. I like to pull that feeling of loss. I feel like it's difficult to look at those emotions, but we gotta pull them out. If we're really going to emotionally invest in changing things and doing things differently, we gotta get in touch with that. Otherwise, we're just stuffing it down. So that is a lot what a lot of the progress in. Yeah.
I cried reading my letter in my group. I couldn't get through it.
Yeah, and it takes some time. It take to work through it. Like 10 weeks is a great start.
Yeah, and I think it was a lot easier to do in, what felt like a safe space of people who, wouldn't be judging me for my feelings, because they were, they feel similar things.
That is the transformative power of the group coaching experience. And Kristin touched on that when we were talking about the toast. That's an exercise where we talk to my group members and share our experiences with them. And many coach members, I don't know if you've gotten this in your sections, Kristin, but in my sections, I've got the feedback like, this is the first time I've ever been in a room where everyone in there had ADHD or some type of neurodiversity and really relate to my experience. Many people, like Kathleen just mentioned, like, oh, I was diagnosed late. And many people, even if we are diagnosed, we think, oh, the only person we talk to about is our doctor who's prescribing a pill maybe, but we're not talking to other people. And that is what is lacking from most treatment and coaching approaches, is that the idea of like being in a mutually supportive environment and learning how to collaborate with other people with ADHD, like that alone is transformative. That is a big part of the magic.
I think one reason the toasts are so important is you get so much more negative feedback day to day. No matter who you are on almost everything. And, often positive feedback is lacking. And especially it's hard to give yourself positive feedback. It's so much easier to, but to have a space where you are thinking positively about the other people and also receiving positive feedback about yourself, because it's so much easier to focus on your faults all the time.
Absolutely. There's a study. We'll get to it, but I'm just so excited about it. There's a study, I don't know the study information, about how they said like ADHD children, by the time they're like 7, 8 years old, they've gotten 10,000 pieces more of negative messaging from their home environments and their school environments, and even from like the media talking about ADHD than non-ADHD children. And that doesn't end when you're a child. Even as an adult, if you're kind of chugging through life and you're kind of getting by the best you can, if you're living in isolation where you're just like, oh, this is my secret problem, I keep it to myself, I talk to my doctor about it, but I don't talk to my friends, I don't talk to my coworkers, that is isolation. And that is where those kind of that negative maladaptive messaging, it thrives. That's where it ferments. That's where it goes.
that's a perfect segue into the perspective I wanted to add to this, is that we can try, some of us try to have the conversations with our family around us. And it's not the same as the conversations we have in these groups. One of the biggest things that was really, really helpful to me was not only that it normalized it, it was that I didn't have to explain what I meant when I was trying to describe one of the ways that my ADHD shows up.
Like
A
time
handful of
blindness.
people in the room would totally go, "Oh, I know where you're going with this. This happens to me." And that was such a great inclusion feeling, or inclusive feeling. Because it's one thing to have a support system in your home who says, "We're here for you." It's another thing for them to understand it. And so coming into these groups and having this community, that has been some of the biggest for me, because I do have a supportive family. I try to explain it, but they can't always understand. So having that other person go, "Oh, I get it," that has just been one of the biggest things for me.
Yeah, yeah. And what you were saying earlier about the A team and how tight people are, I mean, I still am meeting weekly with my A team, and we're texting every day, and sending our top threes, not consistently, but persistently.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
like
you're
that.
still working. You graduated a year ago, and you're still working with your A team.
Yep.
Oh
Okay,
yeah. Oh yeah.
that is great,
And
because
and in fact, we adopted two people from our section whose A team didn't continue. There were two of them left from their A team, and so now we have 6 people in our A team.
That's awesome.
because that is the other big, the invisible or the unspoken factor of week 10. That's when our coaching members some of them get really nervous and anticipating, like, I've enjoyed this structured environment with all this support, and it's been really valuable to me. And now this 10 weeks is over, and this is where I start supporting and workshopping folks, like, okay, so what is your plan going forward? What are you going to do for week 11, 12, 13, and then the month after that, and the month after that? And I see it starting to take off right around this time with each section. And it is really, really, really nice to see. And it's like, it's when people, like, we have this whole analogy of, I like to say, if the tool you need does not exist, you learn how to build it. And that's one of the skills
Yes.
we learn that I always kind of to build is like, oh, identifying your needs, figuring out how to navigate around them, and building a tool that maybe has never existed before. Maybe it doesn't make sense to a neurotypical person or to someone who's unaware, but that doesn't matter. Whatever works for you works for you. So I'm seeing that take off right now. And many people who start with our accountability teams, they continue to work with them for years afterwards. Like, personally, I'm on my third A team after my original season, but I consider that a very good track record, because things, as ADHD people, we'll start a system, then the novelty wears off and it eventually falls apart. But that doesn't mean we failed. Or we could look at it as we failed, but we can also say, this is no longer the right tool for me. If it's not working, I'm going to do something else. So the idea of taking that judgment out of it and saying, like, a process of experimentation, if it's not working, then it's not the right tool. I'll do something else. And like that, sometimes, like, I can
Yeah.
see, that's what I feel like you just described, was like, oh yeah, so our team was kind of wavering and we did something else.
Yeah, and even sometimes when you're using a tool and it's working, and then for some reason, even though it's working, you stop using it. The nice thing is, when you're in a group like my A team and the ARC community, bigger, wider, is that sometimes you've forgotten about this thing that worked, and somebody will bring it up, and
Mm-hmm.
and then that brings you back around to it, and then you say, oh right, oh, that thing, yeah,
Oh yeah,
I that really works, I'll do it again, and then you come back to it and do it again for a
that
while.
is exactly why I stayed in the alumni community after my initial season. And then that's why I became an admin, one of our peer mentors, because I knew, like, oh, I need to stay around this. I need this to be a presence in my life, or I'm going to forget all about it. I'm going to phase out of it. So that was, I was like, this is something I need, this structure and support. So that's why I chose to stick around. And
Yeah,
that's why
that's what
I was just going to add, for anyone out there that's not understanding completely about the, Kathleen said the wider Mighty Network community, our ARC community, and Brian just added staying with the community. That is something that is provided from ADHD reWired Coaching. Is we provide an option. Yes, you can continue to meet with your A team, and you get to be in the Mighty Network ARC community online. So it's a place you can go, and we have peer-led groups to do a lot of the strategies. So if you did end up your A team dissolved, you have Mighty Network events to go to, like Clean with Me, Write with Me, just task busting. And then we
I
do
host one
a few social events too. So we have that
And then the
opportunity.
combo, the Pomodoro dance party.
Yeah.
And I host my weekly workshop on doing IBNUs and long-term planning, which a lot of people need support with. I created that for myself because I needed that. But then I realized if I need it, other people probably need it too.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. And it's really rewarding to do that.
Yeah. One of the events that I found one of the most helpful, it's called Planet. So on Sunday night, people just get together and co-work on their weekly plan to think about the week coming ahead, go over your calendar, look at your to-do list. And because there's a set time when I know other people are doing it, that makes me much more likely to do it.
To do the hard thing. Because we don't have to do it alone.
The one thing that I've learned in my life is that I really need reinforcement, outside reinforcement to
externalization, as we like.
Yeah. So like I went through a Pilates-based physical therapy program for my back. But I knew I wouldn't keep doing those exercises just left to myself. So they had a program that you could graduate to going to a beginner class, and then from there, to a more advanced class. And because the class is at a set time every week, and they're people that I met through the physical therapy program, that's my weekly reinforcement to remind myself to do the exercises that help my body.
Leveraging the power of peer accountability, which is what our accountability groups are all about. And on the alumni network, all those resources there. That's why for when we get to week 10 in our coaching program, I'm always praising it. You can look at this as an ending, or you can look at it as a beginning. It's a little bit of both. We're ending our kind of tight time together, but this is where we begin the period of like, when do we start experimenting, finding the resources? How do we implement these skills? And we provide like that platform is there to do that with a platform full of other people who have had this shared common experience. It really is a community that way. So that's why that's why I try to build the bridge between that 10th week and the 11th week and the 12th week, and how do we get this going forward? And I think, Kathleen, you did really, the way you've described it is really, I really like you really leveraged that. You nailed that experience right on the head.
And I'm just quickly curious, did you do the Pilates program and that's what led you to understand that about yourself? Or was it you'd been in the ARC program and then had to do the back therapy, and you knew that you needed that through going through this?
No, the Pilates program was something I had done before that. And
that's great.
Yeah. And before that, I had participated in a Weight Watchers program, and the fact that I got together with people every week. And
yes, because no matter how late in life you have gotten your diagnosis, you are still the expert on yourself, and you know things. And so we really help embrace that about you, and what can you do with that insight. It's directly based on, strategizing.
Right. And I like helping, like a lot of ADHD people, I get a dopamine hit from helping other people. And so knowing that my participation is helping other people. So should I go to the adult study hall to co-work or sign on to a co-working event? Oh, but I know Gail, somebody else in the community is expecting me or will be happy to see me, and I'll be helping them, because if they're the only one who shows up, then they'll be sad. I don't want them to be sad.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting close to wrap up time. I mean, we could talk about this all day. And I mean, no, we really could talk about this all day
Yes.
because we have ADHD. But we're practicing our bottom lining skills. We want to keep these short form so people with ADHD can actually listen to them. But Kristin, your last thoughts on week 10, if you're going to send a message to the folks who might be interested or
Well,
curious.
first of all, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
And
you.
as I said, she did go through my program last season. So if I were thinking of last thoughts, I'm a lot like Kathleen and need that social interaction to get me activating on some things. If that is not, if being part of this program is what's too hard for the after program piece, utilize whatever you can. Use your A team that you have formed, as Kathleen has. Continue to build those skills that keep you activating on these things you're learning, because it's a stroll through life trying to pick up on all these new lifestyle changes that you're creating. I'm talking to the people who've just recently graduated as of yesterday.
Yeah. And you can't do them all at once.
Yeah, you can't.
And the analogy I like to use is if you're steering a ship, if you've ever sailed a ship, if you can change the rudder position very quickly, but it takes time to actually change the course of the ship after you do that. If you're driving suppose you're piloting a big cargo ship and you just switch the rudder position, like you can do that immediately. It takes a minute, but then to actually get the bow of the ship to change direction, it's a function of not just that the rudder is our awareness. It's a function of time to actually move the front thing. So stick around and keep workshopping with us. And that's how we actually get the best long-term incomes. I was like, less outcomes. So that's that's always my final point in week 10.
Right. Yeah, to jump on that analogy, you also need help when you start veering off course to,
Exactly.
other people will help course correct you.
All hands on deck.
Absolutely. Okay. With that note, let's wrap it up. Thank you, Kristin. I really enjoy doing these every week, and we're going to keep doing them. Even then, we're going to take a break between season 35 and 36 for a couple of weeks, but we're going to keep recording anyway. I have some information up about our season 36 registration events coming up. And thank you so much for Kathleen for joining us. It is always a pleasure.
Okay, thanks very much for inviting me.
Thank you.
See you around the community.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. See y'all next time.